if you want some more sting taken off of it, I would point you to some bright spots for K-State on Saturday, and that list starts with Deuce Vaughn. I don't think it ends there, but it starts with Deuce Vaughn, the freshman running back who had just under 80 yards from scrimmage between his carries and one 24-yard reception that he had. Also had a touchdown, got into the end zone, but more importantly, he, much like Josh Youngblood last year when Youngblood first started getting the ball in his hands, just looks like he moves at a different speed, has a different kind of burst than virtually everybody else that you see touch the football offensively for K-State, and that's what's really exciting. That combined with, just hearing everything we hear about his maturity and listening to him talk after the game about all the work that he put in to learn the offense, and you can tell he's a coach's son. I'll put it that way. His dad, who's been a college coach before.
Yeah, for a long, long time, and currently a scout with the Cowboys. And so he's grown up with football. And I remember being in a conversation with Brian Anderson, the running backs coach, at one point during camp, and he was talking about Deuce. And he and his dad had watched all of K-State's game film because he was, looking at potential NFL guys from K-State's roster from a year ago, and he mentioned the fact that Deuce came in with his own book when camp started, and it's just so rare to see something like that. And then when you combine that with what we saw, at least to a degree, on display Saturday with his skill set, I don't know how you can't be excited watching and seeing this young guy. I think he's just scratching the surface. I don't want to anoint him, an All-American. That's not what I'm saying, but he has a chance to be a really, really fine football player at this level, and I think that was on display to a degree on Saturday for sure.
Had that popped in practice like that? Had you seen some of those things out of him?
Oh, sure. And that kind of stuff, the thing that I was most impressed, and this maybe will surprise you a little bit, was his ability to catch the ball. It's obvious he can run, and he has really, really outstanding lateral movement, and he can make some people miss at times. But I think for where he is at, he is a pretty good route runner, but he really has quite good hands, and I think that was on display. And so, and I've had discussions with some of the guys in the office. Ryan and I were talking one day. We would, and I know we didn't see him Saturday, but Keon Mosey has some interesting talents too, and I think we'd be talking a lot more of him if Deuce weren't here. But I'll just say it this way: I'm glad Deuce is here.
Yeah. No doubt. He does look like a guy with star potential, and Chris Kleiman on the teleconference today said you're going to see some more of him.
He was, in my opinion, the best player on the field for us on Saturday. Great maturity, great discipline, ready to play, answered the bell when he had opportunities to make plays. Had a couple of freshman mistakes that you're going to have in protection and running a route or something. But as far as the stage, Deuce was ready to play and is going to see more and more time moving forward. I just love the kid, love his family, his demeanor, and the way he goes about his business.
That's so telling, isn't it? It really, truly is. And what I was impressed with, too, among several other things, is in visiting with him on our postgame show on the network, when asked about, what didn't go so well, he was straight up saying, I've got to be better at protection, which is just what Coach Kleiman was talking about, and blocking. And so he is well aware, and he's very well spoken, by the way, very, very well spoken. Very aware of what his strengths are and what he needs work on, and I just appreciate him for everything that he brings to the table. I think, as Coach mentioned, he comes from a good family and in a hard-working group, and he's got some skill, and yet understands he hasn't arrived yet. He pretty good little arrival show on Saturday to start with, but more good football's there, no question about it.
Yeah, you can. Even just from his game, you can still see the areas where it's like, okay, there were two or three runs where I just thought he kept trying to hit the home run and stretch it outside, as opposed to, hey, cut it up, take 5 or 6. But those kind of things will come with time.
Oh yeah,
he's going to be great. The other thing that I give him credit for in that respect is looking at his you look at his high school numbers. He was scoring damn near every time he touched the ball, and I know Derek Young said they went to go watch a game of his last year where it was literally like, I think he had 13 touches and like 7 or 8 touchdowns. I mean, so he's used to being able to swing for the fences there. Some of that's going to come along with time, but there is some potential there.
Well, there is, and I don't know if I told you this or it was somebody else, but I was mentioning to somebody here that I was doing a K-State preview for our friend Craig Way down at Texas. And he asked about the running back position, and I started to talk about Deuce being a factor. And I hadn't even mentioned his name. And where Deuce played is basically right there in Craig's backyard.
It's close to Austin,
in
right?
the Austin area. And he knew exactly. He said, "You're talking about Deuce Vaughn." And I went, "Yeah." He said, he tore it up here. Just tore it up. That made my day, too. I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine if he were, say, like 3 inches taller and maybe 40 pounds heavier, he may be wearing burnt orange right now.
Well, and I think more the 3 inches than the weight. If he were 3 inches taller and 15 pounds heavier.
That's fair. What do they list him at? Do they list him at like $170, something like that?
I think it's 168.
Yeah, I think so. And I think he's a little bit bigger than that, but he's probably, would you say 5'6"? 5'7"?
What did they list him at 5'6"?
Yeah.
Put him next to me. We'll find out.
Yeah,
well, that's true. I mean, that's the thing. Like he's and I know Mitch has already said it here on the air, so we can say Darren Sproles, right? But Sproles-ish with his size and the skill set, I think, is reminiscent of that too. I was just listening to R.J. Young, Mitch, who we had on the show not too long ago, but he's a guy that's covered Oklahoma for a long time. He was on the Sports Animal Tulsa. He's doing some stuff for ESPN now, but he was talking about his favorite players from Week 1 in the Big 12, and Deuce Vaughn was one of them, and he immediately went into Darren Sproles compare. I mean, that's what everybody is going to think the second that they see him.
Yeah, and there are some similarities, certainly. I'm still kind of pulling the reins back on my horse in throwing that out there. Not that there aren't some similarities, but because I do think, as I mentioned, Deuce has got really, really good vision and lateral movement and hands and those kind of things. But Darren I always kind of chuckled when people said how small he was. He wasn't small, he was short. The rest of him was big, I mean, and powerful and strong with amazing movement and hips and feet. Just simply stated, he had great talent, period.
Well, I guess that's where I'll ask you, because I don't feel like I don't know the answer to this. How sturdy is Deuce Vaughn right now? I mean, Darren Sproles is like out squatting offensive linemen. He was ridiculous. But
yes. There's your difference right at the moment. I think you've got a very talented young player here who has good background with family and those types of things. The coaches love him. He's going to do all of the right things, I think, for the most part. But right now, when you look at Darren's, I don't really even want to talk about his pro career, but at K-State, I remember when I came in 2002, people were questioning at that point his durability and his strength and those kind of things, but he answered all of those and then some. And he, who knows whether Deuce will have, that type of strength as he moves forward, because you're right. I would even be honest with you and tell you that I think in the 19 years I've been at K-State, one of the hardest working weight room guys that I have seen is Darren Sproles.